Welcome in episode 5. That's your boy Graham Marsh up there. You don't have to adjust your camera. We do look this good. You can see that right there.
True.
As always, this podcast is brought to you by that guy right there behind me, BJ Ruiz, our Farm Bureau insurance agent. You need life insurance, guys. Don't be that person that doesn't get life insurance and needs an income for your family when life happens. That's why you need life insurance, or you need auto or homeowners insurance. Graham, what's going on, man?
Dude, it's just another day, baby. Just another day. We got football season rolling on. It's about to start, bro.
Yeah.
This is the tease time of year, bro.
Yeah, you were at the Jags practice earlier, wasn't you?
I was. It was about 1 billion degrees. It was fun though. I like going to those scrimmages. It wasn't like they're not obviously not tackling to the ground, which kind of like makes it hard to see like how a play would have actually gone out. So that was kind of hard to do, but I mean, it was still fun. It was fun to be back in the stadium. Fun to watch the new guys, especially. I like the scrimmages to watch the new guys, especially. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, so let's start from the jump. Biggest news out of the day: Bobby Bowden passed. It was expected after a lot of the news that was surrounding him recently. Bobby Bowden was a dude that obviously we didn't see a lot of. I mean, Graham, you were born in 98, 97?
The last day of 1997, New Year's Eve.
So
basically 98.
Yeah, so I was born in 98. I saw Bowden. I was at the last 2 Florida State games that Bowden coached at the Swamp in 07 and 09. And I mean, I'll probably will never fully appreciate how big of a moment that was. In 09, I was the year, Tebow had Percy and all those guys with Brandon Spikes, and I was senior night for 09. But that was Bobby Bowden's last game there too. And I mean, we can't really talk about what he did. Everybody talks about what the guy he was, but I mean, what he did at the program at Florida State. I mean, Graham, you talk about the 90s. You had Florida was in their prime with Spurrier. You had Miami coming off 3 national titles in 5 years in the late 90s or late 80s, early 90s. And FSU finished in the top 5 every year. And that was coming off of, FSU was struggling to not even have a football program when Bowden took over, and to take it from there. You can just open floor your thoughts on Bobby Bowden today.
Yeah, I mean, basically what I know Bobby Bowden as is Florida State's Steve Spurrier, which, of course, pretty much everyone would agree with that. And yeah, like you said, I mean, what is Florida State football without Bobby Bowden? I mean, the field's named after him. There's a statue of him out front. He means everything to that program, just like Spurrier does with Florida. And it's just one of those things, man. Lived a super long, super full life, and it sucks that he passed. But like, wouldn't we all love to, when we go, that's the legacy you leave, and everyone feels the way they do about him. But yeah, the main thing is with those teams. I mean, those Florida State teams in the 90s were unbelievably good. And one thing that I think our generation has not gotten to appreciate that the generation before us did was those teams. All 3 big 3 Florida teams practically ran college football, dude. It was like those 3 teams in Nebraska were running college football in the 90s, man. And I looked at it because I was kind of interested. Since 2013, I think. I want to say it's 2013. I might be a year or 2 off or something. Every Florida State game since then, except for 1, has been a double-digit game. Yep. And it's decently even. Like, the series has been decently even because, of course, Florida State had their run, and then Florida's kind of come back in the last couple of years. But the game is never close. The game itself is never close. In the 90s, those were some battles, man. Those are some overtime games. And just, could you imagine an overtime Florida State game in the Swamp right now? Like, my goodness. And Steve Spurrier brought that to Florida. Bobby Bowden brought that to Florida State. And it was an unbelievable rivalry. As a Gator fan, of course, you can appreciate how good he was and bringing that program to prominence. And, just unbelievable career.
So back to the current present, talking about the Florida Gators. Vegas has them at 9 wins. So basically they have Florida losing the Alabama, LSU, and Georgia game. I can see Alabama, Georgia easy. Georgia should be heavily favored, not heavily, a touchdown plus favorite over Florida right now as a preseason. That LSU game, I think, is going to be the biggest game for Florida because I think it's going to derail the season. I'm already chalking up Florida losing Alabama because LSU is the one game that's previous to Georgia, and if you figure you have 2 losses going in that Jacksonville, that's gonna be your season. What do you see this Florida team doing win-loss record?
Win-loss, I mean, not for the line, 9 is perfect. I would go one more than that. I think they're going to win 10 games again because I think they're going to win every other game, first of all. And then I don't think there's going to be any hiccups, no 2018 Missouri type games, nothing like that. I don't believe. And then between LSU, Bama, and Georgia, I think they steal one of those. They won't be favored in any of those games, especially because they got to go to Baton Rouge. They won't be favored. But it's just Dan Mullen with his track record and how good he's been so far. I just find I find it hard to believe they're not going to steal one of those games. I think Georgia, they're probably going to lose. If I had to pick one of those games, it would of course be LSU, just in terms of their best chances, because LSU is the worst team out of those 3. However, I'll say this about Bama. I'm not picking them to win that game, but if you're going to play Bama in the regular season, if you have to play them, you want to play them at your place, you want to play them early, and you want to play them with a new quarterback.
Yep.
And Florida's got all 3 of those. Again, that's not me saying they're going to win the game, but those 3 things line up to make your chances of winning the game better than usual. You don't want to play them late in the year when everyone's developed and everyone's looking unbelievably good and they've kind of figured everything out and they're beating everybody by 30 like normal and their quarterback's in a rhythm, and you certainly don't want to play them at Bryant-Denny. So getting them in Gainesville is huge. That's your biggest advantage. Because obviously as we know, and I'm sure anybody listening knows how big of an advantage playing at the Swamp is. I think Bryce Young's gonna be a great player, but that's gonna be his 3rd game as a starting quarterback. So you look at the quarterback battle, both guys are new as the long-term starter, but Emory Jones has played a lot more football in a Gator uniform than Bryce Young has in a Bama uniform. So I would say quarterback advantage Florida, at least early in the year. We'll see how it goes on as it progresses. And then early in the season is big. Playing them week 3 instead of week 8, that's a big deal. That cannot be overstated. But I mean, at the end of the day, I think they're going to lose that game. But I think between Bama, Georgia, and LSU, they steal one of those games, and I predict, barring any significant injuries, I don't think there'll be any hiccups along the way, which is the main thing I think Dan Mullen has gotten better about, other than the LSU game last year. That was obviously tough. But the biggest thing for them this coming year to win those 10 games, in my opinion, is no hiccups. South Carolina, Kentucky, they got to play Kentucky on the road.
Yep.
Every Kentucky game in Lexington has been an absolute nail biter since I think 2013 was the last time they won by double digits there. I mean, the Will Grier year, that was a close game. Of course, the last time they were there when Felipe got hurt, that was a really close game. If Felipe doesn't get hurt, they lose that game.
Yeah, the one that game was in overtime in the Swamp.
Yeah, and especially when they're in Lexington, those games are always tough. The game always ends. If you're a Gator fan, you're always stressed in the 4th quarter against Kentucky. So that could be a potential hiccup game. And they made some noise in the transfer portal too, so that could be a potential hiccup game. No hiccups, and then I think they still won those games. So if I had to put money down right now, I would say they're going to win 10 games.
Dan Mullen hasn't done much in the offseason with speaking other than coach speak, but the one fascinating thing he said in the offseason is using the 2 tailbacks in the backfield. And obviously the tailback room for Florida is loaded. You got Bowman, Lingard, and then obviously you have Malik Davis and Damian Pierce. As just a football dude, how to me, when you use two backs, that means you're going through receivers, two backs in the backfield, no tight ends. What does that mean to you? And what have you heard? I mean, I know you're with 1010 and you used to write for a couple of with the Alligator and with Sports Illustrated. What's the most fascinating thing to you with Dan Mullen saying he's going to be using a lot more two tailbacks in the backfield?
To me, it just means that it's just Dan Mullen being Dan Mullen. He's looking at his roster and he's saying, my most talented guys are play running back this year. So let me put more of them on the field at once. I mean, like look at last year, for example, when they played Georgia. They weren't running two back sets, but their little flare passes and their wheel routes out of the backfield killed Georgia all game. Georgia couldn't cover it. They couldn't stop it. They knew it was coming every play. They couldn't stop it. And that's one thing. We were just talking about Bowden and Spurrier. One thing I've heard that Dan Mullen does, and older fans and media say that this reminds them of Spurrier. When Mullen does something in a game and he knows that it's working and he can see it's working, he will run that every stinking play and make you stop it. And I think that he sees potential in that with two backs, especially because your first two backs, at least early in the year, are going to be Davis and Pierce. Davis is your bruiser, Pierce is your bruiser, and Davis is your pass catcher, your speed scat back guy. You can put those two guys on the field and have them do different things. It's kind of a James Robinson, Travis Etienne sort of thing. Like if we're talking about the Jaguars, it's kind of the same idea. If you have two running backs that give you a very different skill set, then I think that makes a lot of sense. And again, it's just Dan Mullen being Dan Mullen. He's seeing what he's got and he's making it work. That the Dan Mullen offense is really a bunch of different offenses, right? And it's just seeing what's best. And I think this year is the closest to what he does best as a play caller with Emory Jones. Like Emory Jones is, of course, going to run the ball a lot more than Kyle Trask did last year. And then you have your two backs that tells me they're going to carry the ball a lot if you have two back sets. And the biggest X factor, the two biggest X factors to me are how are Lingard and Bowman going to be. We know we're getting in Pierce. We know we're getting in Malik Davis. We have a pretty good idea of what we're getting in Naquan Wright. It's the next two guys, because Lingard or Bowman could both be absolutely special game breakers, guys we haven't seen since the Urban Meyer days at Florida. Or they could be just the fourth and fifth guy and you kind of forget they exist. Yeah. So a lot of question marks there, but to the long-winded answer to your question of what that tells me is Dan Mullen's being Dan Mullen.
Another question that doesn't get a lot of play is, I mean, the run blocking. Florida hasn't been able to run block at all in the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
They were able to in their first year with P. Ryan and Jordan Scarlett. I feel like they ran the ball effectively a lot more. And last year in 2019, it was more, we're going to be pass first and second, and then we'll think about the run later. Do you think that gets better? Do you think that becomes more balanced, knowing that the room is more running back heavy this year?
Well, it's going to have to, right? I mean, if it doesn't, then my 10-win prediction is going to change. That's going to go down to about 8 wins probably, because listen, I believe in Emory Jones as a passer significantly more than most people do. I think I am more impressed than most people are with how he throws the ball. I think he can throw the ball really well. I think just the fact that you've seen him run a lot makes you almost think he can't throw as well. But I don't think that's the case. I think that was just Dan Mullen play calling based on what's most effective. And when you have Kyle Trask throwing the ball, you're obviously not going to make Emory throw the ball a lot because there's no reason to. That being said, I mean, he's not going to be Kyle Trask. I mean, Kyle Trask did things last year that no quarterback has ever done at Florida, throwing the ball. I mean, you can't, even if you think Emory Jones is a good passer like I do, you don't expect that. Also, he's not going to have a Kyle Pitts to throw to, which obviously changes things. So he's going to need to run the ball more. And their backs, like we just talked about, are going to need to run the ball more. So I believe they'll run block better from the perspective of during fall camp, they're going to run the ball more in practice. And it's just as simple as that. You, as an offensive lineman, you're just going to get more reps run blocking. Where I think that was a big thing is the last couple of years, Mullen has seen how ineffective the running game was, especially early in the game, and he just wasn't calling it. So in practice, they weren't practicing it. I don't know that to be the case for a fact. I'm just kind of assuming, but I mean, if you're not going to run the ball effectively and you're an offensive lineman during a whole game, like how are you going to get a lot of practice run blocking? You're not. So, yeah, I think they're going to run the ball significantly more. I think they have to, and they'll throw the ball when they need to. And I think, especially early in the season, you're going to rely a lot on Dameon Pierce. Your bruising back that's played a lot of football. You'll rely on Malik Davis too. But this is a big year for John Hevesy too. He's the biggest coaching concern is obviously Todd Grantham, but other than that, it's John Hevesy, because last 2 years the offensive line has not been fantastic. So that's kind of more of a wait and see for me, I think.
SEC as a whole, let me take a step back. I talked to Pat Dooley last week, and I had Terry on a couple weeks ago. Mm-hmm. They're both drinking the Texas A&M Kool-Aid that apparently they have and I don't. They both said that they believe that they're going to beat Alabama, win the West, win the SEC, and go to the playoff.
No.
Now, okay, I'm a believer that I'll believe it when I see it. And you're not a champ until you beat the champion. And that champion's obviously Alabama. Not saying Jimbo can't beat Saban, but I mean, every time the two have met since Jimbo went to A&M, it's all been, all right, here we go. Here's A&M. This is the shot, 3:30 CBS in Tuscaloosa. And then Bama does Bama things and wins 52-24. And there's that. So you kind of just answered the question. You're not drinking this A&M Kool-Aid.
No, absolutely not. I mean, they're going to be what they've been the last couple of years, which is pretty good. They're right now within the SEC. They're probably the fourth best program, fourth or fifth maybe in there, possibly three. But they're just not going to beat Alabama. Like they're just not. I mean, what week do they play? I think they play a little bit later.
I want to say it's middle of the season before they play LSU. So it's like mid-October.
They're not winning that game. I mean, like this happens every year, though. It's just like you said. Every year, all we hear is, boy, Jimbo's building a monster. Ooh, they're recruiting so well. They're going to be so good. You're telling me they lost by double digits last year to Alabama when they had Kellen Mond at quarterback, who played there for about 40 years. and you're telling me they're going to win this year without him? No, stop it. No, they're not. No.
And I mean,
no. That's because you know what, Dylan? Let me tell you this. It is the woke college football take to love Texas A&M. That is the oh, I know college football better than you do take. That's what it is, because when the rest of us idiots that just watch the games and watch Alabama murder everybody by 30, you're the guy that sees it through, that they're actually on their way down, and Texas A&M is building this monster, and they're going to get. No, they're not. No, they're not. Stop it. No, they're just not.
If A&M had the team, if A&M had the team last year that they do, if the team they had last year was playing this year, I would take it into some serious consideration. Golly, I couldn't talk there. A&M lost 4 offensive linemen. You have a brand new quarterback. I don't know if any. They have Spiller, who's a really good running back, number 28, and I think they have a good receiver on the outside whose name's escaping me.
Their tight end is really good too. The guy with the weird name.
And I mean, I don't know. It's like I said. I mean, yes, Alabama. I think Alabama does take a step back this year, but not as big of a step as some people think. to where A&M's going to beat them.
Yeah, no, I mean it's Whittemire, I think.
Yes, that's it.
Whittemeyer's their tight end. We do this every year. Why do we do this every year? I don't understand. Alabama is Alabama. They're just really good. Like, I'm sorry, they're just good. And college football is a rich get richer league. It's not like the NFL where things naturally cycle out and reset, and every team has an inevitable downfall at some point. And Nick Saban's not going anywhere. And their team this year is really good, just like they always are. And yeah, just like you said, you think Texas A&M losing 4 offensive linemen is going to beat Alabama? No, they're not. Stop it.
Yeah.
Come on now. No.
All right.
It's ridiculous.
Let's move on to the NFL, where you partaked in the Jags practice. I look at their schedule, and I'm a big Vegas guy. I don't believe in fan hype and all, but they're going to win 9-10 games.
You are a big Vegas guy.
I like Vegas because they're in it for money. They're not into emotion. I'm very even keel. This is me all day. I'm not high or low about anything.
This man barely cheers at games.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. I'm supposed to be in the media. So when I look at the Jags schedule, I see 3 wins for sure. Texans twice, the Jets. Ironically, the Jets are favored by 1.5 of the Jags right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then the 2 50-50 games are the Broncos and Falcons. Every other game, I'm like, I don't think so. Now, Indy, Carson Wentz, we'll see how that goes. If Wentz ain't playing, I'll take the Jags.
They got Cincinnati on Thursday night.
Yes, they do. That's the game that I forgot right now. So that's in week 4. That's an early game.
Yeah. Yep. That's an early
game. With the Jags, from what you saw today, it seems like a lot of people are writing 7 wins, 7-10, 6 wins, 7 wins. I'm definitely taking the under in that. I definitely take 5-6 wins and run with it, just because you have a young team, a team with a lot of questions, and defensively a team that wasn't that good last year. And you're playing the NFC West. You're playing a physical AFC North division, and I mean, Tennessee, who you haven't beaten a season like it forever, they're always physical. So if you had a bet over under 6.5, what would you take there?
I would take the under as well, but I think it'll be right. I think it'll be 6 wins. I think they're going to win 6 games. And the thing is, to me, and kind of the narrative, I feel like amongst most Jags fans, media, whatever, is the amount of wins this year isn't necessarily all that important. Obviously, it is to Vegas, but like in the grand scheme of the Jags, if they win 2 games, that's obviously horrible. And if they win 10 games, that's obviously amazing. But like realistically, in their realistic window, that I would say is from probably 4 wins to maybe 8. Like 8's probably their ceiling. 3 to 4 is probably their floor. How many games they win within that is not that big a deal. It's more, how do you look in those games? Are you competitive? Like a lot of what I've heard with with the narrative for the Jaguars and the desire is be what the Chargers were last year.
Yeah.
Which was, the Chargers didn't win a whole lot of games, but they were in every game they played. They lost a ton of games by just a couple of points. And it was because, 1 interception here, 1 fumble here, 1 holding call. If they lose because of that, I'm okay. But to me, when you're trying to build a franchise, I know that the NFL, like when it comes to like rankings and stuff, the score doesn't matter. But like when it comes to building your program, it does matter. Because you need to look like you belong on the field when you didn't, like last year and the year before and the year before. And they played some close games last year, but they still got beat a bunch last year as well, obviously. So with the Chargers last year, they didn't win that many games, but they were in every game, and their rookie quarterback looked really good. So if I got those 2 things, if my roster's talented enough to just keep me competitive, and my rookie quarterback looks fantastic, all right, I can live with that. I don't care if I win 4 games. Like, I feel good going into next year. But the main thing you said, calling this defense not very good is extremely generous. They were horrible. They were not only the worst defense in the league, they were the worst defense from like the past couple of years, especially stopping the run. They could not stop the run whatsoever. They've added a ton of defensive linemen, a ton, and they've got a bunch more bodies, which is great. I mean, that's good. None of them are standout guys. You know, there's no Aaron Donald on that line, of
Yeah.
course, but you have more guys that you certainly made the position better. Um, I don't know how hard that was to do, but you certainly made them better. And we'll see, you know, if Josh Allen returns to rookie year form and he gets double-digit sacks, then okay, you know, you're in good shape. If Caleb on Chason looks comfortable in a 3-4, okay. That could also not be the case. Roy Robertson Harris is going to be relied on a lot, and he was kind of just a guy in Chicago. He wasn't any sort of difference maker. Jihad Ward is going to be asked to do things. He was just a guy in Baltimore. You're going to ask guys that have been just guys most of their career to do something more special than they've ever done, which is certainly possible. We've just never seen it. So I would say you're still a couple of pieces away on defense from even being respectable, from even being middle of the pack in the league. That offense has potential to be really good by the end of the year, I think. They got a lot of weapons. The offensive line is better than people give them credit for. The receivers are really good, in my opinion. So the offensive side of the ball, I'm feeling good, and that's why I think they'll be close in a lot of games. The defense side of the ball is why I think they're going to lose most of those games, though.
How was ETN using practice today? It seems like that's the biggest question for me. It seems like they use him a lot receiver in minicamp, and he plays running back. I wasn't too much of a fan of them drafting him, just from the sense of, you know, you already have a good guy in James Robinson who you're paying pennies on a dollar for from him being undrafted. And I felt like the Jags could have used a lot more. They could have plugged in a lot more holes in different positions with that 25th pick, I think it was, late in the first round, other than picking a running back.
I feel like with the ETN pick, I'm very wait and see on him. I know that's kind of a cop-out answer, but the reason I say that is because it's going to entirely depend to me on how they use him. If they just use him as a between the tackles back, which they're obviously not going to do, but if they did, then why? You know, use James Robinson, use Carlos Hyde, and call it a day, and then go get me another offensive lineman, go get me a defensive lineman, please. Go get me another safety. You're right. There were other positions that were of more value there than a running back, of course. If he just plays receiver, then that would also be stupid, because just draft a receiver. Elijah Moore was there. Rondell Moore was there. Just draft them. However, I will say, if they use him, this player comp is way too crazy right now. He's not going to be this guy. But if they use him like the Saints use Alvin Kamara, okay, I'm happy. I like it, because he's explosive, man. He's the ACC's all-time leading rusher for a reason. To answer your question about practice, he had 2 catches in a row. Gardner Minshew threw both of the passes, I think, when he was running with the twos. The first one was like a 10, 15 yard out to the sideline. Minshew overthrew him just a little bit, and Etienne had a really nice one-handed catch and toe tapped the sideline. He looked like a receiver that had done this his whole life. Like it was such a natural catch. Like it was really, really impressive. And the next one, I want to say he was out of the backfield, and he ran a wheel route, and whatever linebacker was covering him, I can't remember if they were going against the ones, and I think it might have been like the 2s or 3s, because I want to say, for some reason, Shaq Quarterman is ringing a bell. I feel like he might have beaten Shaq Quarterman. But whoever was covering him at linebacker, he ran right around, which is probably going to happen a lot because he's really fast. Minshew threw a really good ball. He caught it, and Andrew Wingard kind of drilled him like right away, which is problematic in a scrimmage like that. Probably shouldn't be doing that, but nonetheless, gets hit the second he catches the ball and holds on to it for like a 25-30 yard game. Like, it was a big game. So you love to see that, of course. so far I like how they're using him, so I like the pick. Is kind of where I'm at. But that's a big wait and see for me.
So I'll be 100% honest with you. I didn't care to watch much Jags last year. I care to watch a lot more NFL with Red Zone, especially after the Jags win one game and lose 15. And the news comes out recently, and I mean recently, like within the past couple of hours, that CJ Henderson is pretty much on trade block. I know he had a good first game against Indy, and then the one game the Jags won. But I mean, did he have like not that good of a year to finish the season? I mean, what's the word with that?
He was hurt a ton. And you've heard it a million times. Your best ability is availability. That's been an issue with him so far. He just wasn't super available. He missed a lot of games. And basically, yeah, against Indianapolis, he had a great game, that first game. And then when they went up to Green Bay and they played the Packers, he was spectacular against Devontae Adams. He had a great game covering Devontae Adams. He was giving Devontae fits. It's pretty rare you see Devontae Adams like visibly frustrated, and he was. And he forced a fumble on the one time Devontae beat him on a route. CJ forced a fumble. So that was obviously a good game, but that was pretty much all you saw from him. There was the rest of the year he was either not playing or not playing well. There was not much the rest of the season, and I think though less than his performance last year. I think what's frustrating the coaching staff and what's causing this whole trade issue is he was in COVID protocol to start training camp. So he missed the start of training camp. Comes back, he's out of protocol, but he has to go through that acclimation period because you can't just start in pads. And they were full pads by the time he was back. So he had to do the 3 days where he's doing work off to the side, doing the stationary bike and all that stuff. Comes back one day after that acclimation period. Comes back one day. He competes in camp. This scrimmage would have been his second day, and he took a personal day. And it's like it's kind of like, dude, I mean, you've already missed all this camp, and now you're going to take a personal day. Like, not the time, not the place. That's what I think the coaching staff is not happy with. Clearly something's going on there. I mean, the other day in practice, when he was still doing the acclimation period, I don't know if you saw this on Twitter and stuff, but they put the stationary bike like right by the media, like for everyone to take pictures of him and stuff and like report about it. And the kind of the rumors and the tea leaves is that was almost like a humiliation tactic. And saying like, here's your team, like you better join them soon, kind of thing. And the whole thing was weird. The reason it kind of turned everybody's head was there are other guys that were in the acclimation period and in protocol and blah, 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 that were out there doing stuff off to the side. And CJ Henderson was the only one by the media. So it's not like everyone's over there and they're doing a group thing or whatever. Everyone else is inside, they're under the tent, like they're kind of wherever. And then he's right there almost being like exposed. So it was a weird deal. I don't know how much truth there is to they were trying to humiliate him and stuff. I'm not sure. I'm not in those conversations inside the building, but clearly there's something weird going on between CJ Henderson and the front office. And I think it's less about his production and more about like his availability, his dedication. That kind of stuff is in question right now.
Gotcha. Couple rapid fire questions and I'll let you go. Thanks for the time hanging out. I know you've been sipping on that bourbon all night and
of course, dude.
Getting some real talk in.
Practically spinning right now.
Oh yeah. SEC championship in Atlanta. Who are the two teams going to be?
SEC championship in Atlanta?
Yep.
Bama, obviously. We just talked about that. And then like every year, the winner of the Florida-Georgia game. I tend to think that Florida's got a better chance in that game than other people do. I think Georgia's they're still really good. They're the best team in the SEC East, but I think they're a little overrated. I'll say Florida. I'll say Bama, Florida rematch.
I say Bama, Georgia, because those are the two teams that have the least questions around their two teams right now.
I would agree with that.
You know what you're getting with them.
I do agree with that.
So I'll tend to lean that way. Winner of the AFC South right now, and it's kind of hard to tell with Carson Wentz and Indy. Who's the division winner in the AFC South?
That's the Titans. That's not even hard. No, that Carson Wentz fully healthy. Carson Wentz not playing the whole year. It doesn't matter. The Colts are not winning that division. Carson Wentz is overrated, and Quentin Nelson's hurt too.
Yeah.
So Quentin Nelson's their best offensive lineman, and Quentin Nelson might be the best offensive lineman in football. So the Colts have a good roster. They're not as good as the Titans. The Titans just got Julio Jones. Their defense is a little bit suspect, but it's not going to matter. That offense is going to score 35, 40 points a game, dude. They're unbelievably good. And Houston's going to do nothing. Houston's going to be the worst team in football. The Jags are going to be still well below average. Indy, in my opinion, will be average to slightly below. Indy, to me, they win 7-8 games in that range. And the Titans win 10 or 11, and I think they coast in the division. They win by multiple games.
Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State all make the playoff this year. True or false?
Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State. True.
Yeah. I've listened to Chuck Oliver.
Who's beating Clemson in the ACC?
Yeah, no one else in the ACC.
Who's beating Ohio State in the Big Ten?
I've listened to Chuck Oliver. He said Ohio State, this is probably going to be one of their best teams they've ever had. Now,
really?
That's saying a lot. And
just losing Justin Fields, that is saying a whole lot.
Yeah. And I mean, I think this year in college football is going to be so fascinating. I mean, all the top teams, other than Georgia, Florida, new quarterback, Ohio State, new quarterback, Clemson, Alabama, A&M, all those teams, everybody's pretty high on, all have a new quarterback. Now, I mean, the transition from quarterbacks from the past years used to mean a lot. And it seems like these past couple of years, I mean, Franks to Trask was nothing. Even when Trask got hurt against Auburn, Emory comes in, it was nothing.
Right.
Jalen Hurts got hurt, Tua comes in, it didn't seem like anything. But I feel like that's going to be a big story going forward that hasn't got a lot of play yet.
I think it'll be bigger this year because of the names that have just left college football. I mean, Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields, those are the biggest two quarterback names in college football in years. So I don't know. That'll be interesting. I mean, I think DJ however you pronounce his last name, will be really good. But it's interesting. Trevor Lawrence, dude. Like, you have a lot of guys. Not only do you have a lot of guys to replace, but you have a lot of guys to replace that were huge names in college football and that played a whole lot of college football. So you're dealing with teams that have new quarterbacks that haven't had new quarterbacks in like 3 years. And that's kind of an extra step to me. So.
Gotcha. Graham, I appreciate the time. I'm going to go to bed. It's 11 o'clock. You boys got to wake up early.
Never, we're night owls out here.
Oh, yeah. Tell the folks how they can catch your work, man.
So if you follow at 1010XL on Twitter, whenever you see videos and stuff, more than likely I made that. As far as my own personal account, follow at 1010XL Graham on Twitter. That's at 10101010XL, the letters XL, and then Graham, Graham. Twitter is usually where I post just about everything. So my other socials, I mean, if you want to give me extra clout, you can follow me on Instagram. But I think as far as my work and whatnot, you're going to want to follow me on Twitter.
Graham, thanks again. And we'll talk some ball here soon. I mean, we got a lot. It's August 8th?
This is the tease season of college football and the NFL. It's scrimmages, it's preseason, it's practice videos, which is fine. It's fun for the first little bit, but I'm ready for real games.
Yeah, same here. Thanks, Graham. We'll see you, man.
Yeah, dude.